Welcome to Better Budgets with Serena. Brian. And today is a really special episode of this live stream. I have thought about it coming into the end of 2022 and what I would love to be able to share with you. I have been having a real, I would say, a challenge that I want to share, and it's reflected in this YouTube channel. And hopefully, you will have questions and the opportunity to share more with me what it is you want to hear more about from me. Where this starts and where this live stream wants to begin today is there's a reason why I am wanting to talk about better budgets. I am someone who regularly has been saying since 2018, my head is digital marketing, my heart is financial literacy. I am a marketer and I have been doing that for more than 20 years. Yes, even before social media started. And it is something that I stepped into because I see opportunities every single day. However, there's a part of me that's always been in conflict of who I am as a person, my head and my heart, and how do I bring those two things together. I passionately like to help people be the best versions of themselves. And this YouTube channel was born out of that idea. I have very much wanted to bring together my marketing love and my love for better budgets. And what does that look like? And where does that begin? Now, this particular episode, I have headlined it as Talking Money, and I will and am, even if it doesn't sound like I'm currently talking money. Where I want to get to in today's live stream is to share where it began for me and how I'm moving forward into 2023, bringing together my head for digital marketing and my heart for financial literacy. You may find I pause a fair bit when I speak, and that is because of this moment where I get so excited, the words want to move faster out of my mouth than my head can keep up. And that's half the fun as well of who I am. Now, I'm going to read a chapter from this particular book. This is where I'm getting to. When I talk about what I am challenged with and how I'm bringing together my head for digital marketing and my heart for financial literacy, the reason I want to bring the two together, and I feel it's so important to do that through this YouTube channel, is I am someone who wants to have greater impact in this world. I want to not just be someone who is here to live my life. I'm here to live my life in the best way I can to impact as many people positively as I can. And I say positively because impact can be good and bad. And I'm dedicated to making sure that I have positive impact. And what does that look like? And how do I bring together all the things I love, know, and am good at to be better in this world? So, money is very much the topic of this live stream, but it may not seem like that yet. And that's okay. When you join the live stream, know that I have the incredible Chantel in the background, who is my producer of every live stream that I do. And we work together to make sure that this is a safe place for people to comment and connect and be here. I know this particular live stream may involve more listening than speaking or doing questions to be answered, but know that for you to be able to leave a question, you have to subscribe to the channel. And the reason why I have it that you subscribe to the channel to leave a comment or ask a question is because I want to ensure the quality and the safe place here for you to be able to comment. So do that if you'd like to comment, but also know that you can always comment after the live stream and see that today and this particular live stream is about starting a conversation I want to have more conversations about. And it comes from a very vulnerable place. You know, when I'm holding a book called Sacred Promise, that we're talking about stuff that is pretty important. I'd say sacred, but sacred shouldn't be something that's not talked about. If anything, it's about being valued and honored. So, talking about money, this is about me starting talking about where my journey is and why I'm so determined to have more money conversations and ones that involve higher impact in a positive way. So, if you don't already know about this particular book and why I'm holding it, I'm a co author of this book. And I'll make sure that there's a link in the comments for you to check it out in more detail. It is available via Amazon, Booktopia, Dimmix, and even directly through my own website, dotarise.com, in the resources section. Now, I became an author in this book because of, well, reading a book by Dr. Tara Trent. And Dr. Tara Trent has written a book called The Awakened Woman, and her book is also available via Amazon. That book had me realize how sometimes things don't always make sense in our lives, and we like more than one thing. We are actually in multiple dimensions. We're not only one person in one way. And when we try to contain ourselves too much, we miss the opportunity of being our whole self. So think of this live stream also as me bringing my whole self here to be able to help with greater positive impact for those who are like me or those who have been struggling with regards to talking about money. This is very much for you. And also for those who say that they're good with money, to understand better what people are like who are struggling, because it's easy to hide these things, incredibly easy. But I don't feel that that's a place I want to be anymore. So you're getting the full Serena.Ryan right here, right now in this live stream. I'm going to read this chapter in this book, The Sacred Promise, and you'll get more of an idea of where my passion is coming from. So is very much story time. Sit back and enjoy. Hopefully you've got yourself a nice drink there to have. I've got myself some nice ice cold water. Already had the caffeine hit for the morning. This is Serena.Ryan's chapter, Lost and Found, within the book of Sacred Promise. Lost and found. It was the third night in a row I couldn't sleep. Exhaustion and dread were creeping in. My body was numb from the painkillers, but any sudden movement still hurt. I lay there wishing for sleep, but the beeping monitors didn't stop. The noise outside my room had dulled to a consistent buzz. I picked up my phone and started to mindlessly scroll through Twitter. A tweet by Lewis Howes stopped me mid-scroll. He interviews fascinating people at the top of their game. Here was a tweet featuring Dr. Tara Trent. It was a 1-minute video that took my breath away. In that moment, I decided to purchase her book, The Awakened Woman. I did sense some irony as a rather sleep-deprived, awake woman. But nonetheless, I immediately started listening to her book. I love that she read her own book. Her voice was soothing and her story captivating. By the end of the first chapter, I was sobbing. All my emotions over the last 3 days were released. I fell asleep for 5 hours. It was a deep and restful sleep. When I awoke, I continued listening to the book. It kept me occupied and distracted from the pain and boredom of hospital life. It was like being comforted by a dear friend. In my awe and surprise, I found myself relating to her. I started contemplating my life's purpose. Having been rushed to hospital just a few days earlier, having emergency surgery, and being forced to have bed rest, it was a pause in an often frenetic and busy life that made me rethink many of my actions. As a mum of two small kids and running my own business, thinking about my life's purpose was literally the last thing on my mind. But life has a way of making things happen to make you stop and think, even if you don't want to. Just 6 months earlier, my 5-year-old son had asked me, "Don't you like spending time with us?" Whilst his question shook me to my core and mum guilt crept in, I didn't know where to start changing my routine and lifetime habit of being a workaholic. I simply didn't have time for it. It took a medical emergency to create the space to rethink everything I was doing on autopilot. In Tara's book, she asked the question, "What breaks your heart?" I couldn't immediately answer, but I had time on my hands to think as I was being healed in hospital, so I pondered. I've been told more than once I have high empathy. I've never had a problem feeling for others. This feeling is so strong, in fact, I've learned how to minimize certain things so I can cope and get through each day. At first, this seems innocent enough, like not watching scary movies or the nightly news, but now this avoidance strategy had crept into my daily life. Often avoiding difficult conversations, I would find myself saying yes to things I didn't want or need. As I pondered on this, I started to think about my obsession with work. Work meant that I could avoid people, conversations, and saying no. I have always been proud of my work ethic, but why was working so important to me, and why was it so hard to not work? When my son stopped me in my tracks and asked me if I didn't like spending time with them, I started to wonder, why is work so important? The fact is, the main reason I worked was to have money. The reason I needed to work so much was that I didn't just need money to live, I also needed money to pay off debt. Years of not paying attention to what I was spending money on, consistently living beyond my means, and a heavy reliance on credit cards meant I had painted myself into a corner. I needed to work to have a life and pay off debt. I felt trapped, embarrassed, and ashamed. My debt was hidden after all. I was servicing my debts, and no one could see my debt except me. At the heart of it all, I was missing out on quality time with my kids, husband, and family. I was too embarrassed to have a full and open conversation about money with my husband. After all, he married me, a strong, independent woman who, by all intents and purposes, looked like I had my life together. Technically, I still did. I was paying all necessary debts as required, so working to earn money meant I could have a reason to avoid things. It also meant I was trapped in a cycle of working to pay off debt and in the process avoid time with people. This cycle, this trap broke my heart. The act of not paying attention to money and the way I used it had its consequences. I was working my life away. I wondered if others were trapped like me. Would it make a difference for me to speak up? In the meantime, what could I do to change my situation? Being a lifelong learner is one of my natural strengths. I have used this successfully to create my business, and in the moment, still lying in my hospital bed, I decided to use this strength and apply it to gain financial literacy. What if I could get out of debt and in the process enable others to do the same? My hospital stay lasted 6 nights. On the day of discharge, I resolved two things. I wanted to meet Dr. Terai Trent and thank her in person for her positive impact on my life. And I wanted to attain financial freedom and enable others to do the same. 3 weeks and a day after being discharged from hospital, I flew from Sydney to San Diego to attend Social Media Marketing World, a key event for my business learning. I was determined to meet Lewis Howes, who was a panelist at the event. I considered this my first step to meeting Dr. Terai Trent. I lined up after his session and successfully had a quick chat. Successful in this moment, I still had no idea how I was going to meet Dr. Terai Trent, but was grateful for the opportunity. I did share my goal with him. It was an important moment for me to realize you make your life and goals easier if you share them with others. Once home from my work trip to the USA, I started my financial literacy education. I bought a book called The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape. I read it, but when it came to applying any of the recommendations, I became overwhelmed. It was just too hard. I started to ponder. I reminded myself of what breaks my heart. This was too important not to take any action. I had spent a lifetime ignoring budgeting and accepting the consequences of my inaction. It wasn't about taking anything out of my life. It was about being smarter with what I had, being aware of my money and what I spent it on so I could be better with it. I started to wonder how I could spend less for the same things I wanted. And if there was any leftover money, I would use it to pay off debt. I'm an avid coffee drinker. Not just any coffee, mind you. I had a daily habit of cafe visits to get espresso at $4.50 a pop, often with a muffin or toast. Not uncommon to spend $20 per cafe visit per day. First, I immediately cut out any extras with coffee. Then I decided to try 7-Eleven coffee to replace my cafe visits every second day. Surprisingly, I discovered I quite liked the 7-Eleven coffee. And by week 3, I had switched from daily cafe visits to daily 7-Eleven visits. This saved me an average of $18 per day. Motivated by this success, I began looking for other ways to save money on my daily spending habits. Next, I decided to start writing a shopping list for our weekly groceries. Now, don't laugh too hard, but this is something that didn't occur to me to do sooner. I even took it to the next level of writing down exactly what each item cost and sticking to my budget. When at the grocery store, I'd look to see what was on special and buy the cheapest. I started averaging $46 per week savings on groceries while I still bought what we wanted. These two changes put an average of $172 per week back in my pocket, money I didn't realize I had. With all these savings, I started paying off the 3 credit cards I had. Yes, there were 3 credit cards. I kept looking for savings wherever possible, and slowly and steadily, I started to reduce the debt. I had to keep reminding myself I had accumulated debt and bad habits with money for over 20 years. To remove debt from my life, it was going to be easier and more successful long term if I took a balanced approach. As I was making this transition, I started to build up savings. Slowly at first, $20 per week. What I wanted in this process was a way to no longer have a reliance on credit cards for emergencies, because I knew that emergencies are inevitable and I needed a backup plan that didn't include a credit card. Within 3 months since being in hospital, I felt I was well on my way to reducing my debt. Then I was faced with an unexpected challenge. Dr. Terai Trent lives in Zimbabwe and had announced she was coming to Australia for a retreat. I spoke with my dear friend Carrie about this and my dilemma. Carrie knew of the positive impact Terai had on my life. Without hesitation, Carrie offered to pay for the interstate trip. It wasn't a gift, more a loan I could pay back. I successfully worked this into my budget. I don't advocate asking people for money, but I've found that clear, open conversations regarding money with clear boundaries in place do have a big difference. Carrie wanted to support me to keep on track with my budgeting and money management efforts. With mutual respect and money awareness, this arrangement worked. Incredibly, both Carrie and I met Dr. Terai Trent in Melbourne in October 2018. At the time, I was still struggling with the shame of the amount of debt I was in, but I was disciplined and determined to change my circumstances. What I didn't expect in meeting Terai, she insisted I call her by her first name, was her respect and support for what breaks my heart. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. 18 months later, April 2020, I paid off the last of 3 credit cards. In the 4 years since reading The Awakened Woman, I've paid $43,313 off my debt. I've met Dr. Terai Trent, and I've sponsored students in Zimbabwe to go to university. I'm grateful for my financial stability and now the opportunity to help others achieve the same. There is power in being awakened and having a sacred promise. Lost and found. I feel like I've found my place. This chapter is pivotal for me, bringing together all of me. I understand the challenge of talking money, and it's not always easy, and it's so super easy, I believe. I was going to say it's very broad to talk about the highlight reel. And I see the value in sharing what goes on behind the scenes as well. I know what it's like to be challenged with regards to understanding money. And I also believe that if we have money, we can easily use it unless we look for other ways to get what we want. And that's part of the conversation. So I'd say, regardless of your financial circumstances, and I would say this also from a place of not being a financial advisor, I would say from a human perspective and lived experience perspective, one of the most valuable things you can do is to look how to not spend money, because then you will find more things in your life without having to spend money. And sometimes you can achieve what you want without spending money. And that's a really cool thing to do. I'm interested if anyone has any questions. And I would say It's really important. My goodness. I love, Chantel, how you've actually said here, saving $27.40 per day will add up to $10,000 per year. And when I can see that I've paid over, well, closer to $50,000 now in debt since I started this journey, one of the fundamental things I did was understand those little moments of money, of those little decisions where you think, oh, it's only $3 or $4 a coffee that I'm saving. If you can accumulate that per day over a year, it becomes a massive difference. If you're looking for a way to consider the change with regards to your habits, I would say there's a concept I teach my clients, and it's called ADD. Awareness, because with awareness, we can see things. Simple. Becoming aware. You can make a decision with awareness. There's second D. But one decision, it's good. It gives you an opportunity for change with the decision. But one is not enough for big impact. Dedication enables us to do that decision repeatedly and be dedicated to our decision. I use that as a lens where I've started that with regards to money when I first started making those subtle changes in my personal finance. And what I noticed was, as a concept, add, I start to look at what I can add into my life. And some things don't need to be added. That's the beauty of it. I realized I didn't need cafe quality coffee every single day for that to make a positive impact. I could actually change the coffee I was drinking and still have what I wanted and reduce my debt to get closer to where I wanted to be. And I would say that that's a principle for change in all aspects of life. But with regards to money, valuing more of what I have by being aware of more of what I have has been able to change my decision making. Ooh. Hey, Russell, great to see you here today. We went through this debt reduction process years ago. It's like dieting, though. You got to stick with it. Today, it's woo and manifesting for me. I look at how I can spend money to make more money. Yes. See, and that you're actually talking beautifully, Russell. Thank you. I really appreciate your input on this as well. If exactly that ad concept, being able to be aware of your situation and making a decision, and then dedication to sticking with it. I love that you're sticking with the woo for manifesting. When we're clear on what it is we want to change and then look at the resources available to us to make those changes, it makes a big difference. And there's actually no right or wrong way to do this. I see that all the time. And I would say this as well, as someone who I talk about being a reform spender. If you watch the intro video on the YouTube channel, I actually talk about being an entrepreneur, and I have been. This is the clear thing. I have been in that mindset at times in my life of earn more, to make more, to spend more, and bigger, bigger, bigger. Now, a catalyst for change for me was realizing that if I kept on that path, I wasn't necessarily aiming to what I wanted in my life. And what I really want in my life is the ability of quality time with family and friends, and to see the value in what I have. And I would even say that to you, Russell. I think when we've talked before about how you are looking for the quality of lifestyle you want, you you're going into a place of understanding and making the most of what you already have, and then valuing your time more, and then using your time and money, an active choice on the best way to use it. And I see that is so a flip in that mindset of appreciating more of what you already have and then changing that to be able to see the positive, and then more positive comes. I think for most you I think for most who are in a relationship, it's harder to not spend on your mate than on yourself. Hmm, it's an interesting one. I think when you're in a relationship, the complexity is you've got more decisions to make on who you prioritize and where things get distributed. And that's definitely a layer of complexity in the mix as well. I think learning that, in my case, becoming more aware of how you actually look after each other and have open communication has helped me immensely, because sometimes it's not money itself that's needed, it's understanding that money gives us the choice to have the quality time where we want to spend it and who we want to spend it with. And in my case, by having debt, there was this obligation to service the debt and then have money left over for other things. And by the time you take care of your debt and other responsibilities, I think getting caught up in that you need money to have quality time is not always the case. Some of the best things I've done has been figuring out, like when I'm getting the 7-Eleven coffee, going to a park and having 7-Eleven coffee costs a fraction of taking everyone off to a cafe, a lot less stress, and there's fresh air. And it's kind of a win-win because there's this quality time that's being spent in that environment too. And that's the thing. It's so easy to get too caught up in assuming we need money to go on a holiday when it doesn't cost anything to go for a walk to the local park. Ah, I like this. Our debt arose because my wife wanted a house. It was into the red for a long time after that, but I could not refuse her the house. I hear you on that, Russell. I really do, because I think we we got into that as well because we wanted security, and we see security in having a house. And that also meant the biggest challenge for us was me as also having debt and then also having a mortgage and then feeling like I had to find a way to earn income and be around for the kids, because having one wage is a real struggle for us to pay the mortgage and service my debt. So there was actually no choice for me not to work. It was then finding a way to work. And the challenge for us was that the house that we have is over an hour from the city. And when I put the kids in childcare, I have to earn a lot more money to be able to service the debt and the mortgage and pay the childcare. It's this vicious circle of lifestyle choices. So then looking at ways for me to creatively earn an income. When I say creatively, it's looking at your skill set that you have available and information, education you have access to then create an income. And I had more than 20 odd years worth of experience in uh, marketing. That's right, marketing. I'm a marketing expert. How do I use that to enable people to get what they want? And that is the challenge, because that's a well, I would say a place where I started to go, where do I see how can people make the most of what they do? And the challenge with marketing is that people see their problem that they think they have and then they want you to solve it. And most obviously is that people go, "Oh, well, I need more than what I currently have." And they come to me regularly and say, "I want to do ads." And in my mindset shift and talking about the ad concept, through awareness and assessing their circumstances, I'm like, actually, you can save money in other areas of what you're doing with regards to marketing before you do ads. And if you save that money, you might actually get more money back in your pocket and achieve the business goal that you're after. And if you do that and then use the tools that you've already got organically before you do paid ads, you will also get more business. So by the time you save money here and then you go and do all these things better organically because you don't actually know that you're not doing it right there yet, then you could set yourself up for the opportunity of getting what you want before you do ads. And some clients now don't even do ads because they've gone and sorted out all those other pieces. And that's my moment, my epiphany that's happened in 2022 of going, I was so afraid to even talk about my money challenges. I tried to separate out my journey of talking about personal finance from my marketing because I think, oh, marketers and marketing is about growing businesses. And personal finance, well, that's something that's not part of my business. Personal finance sits separately. So then I have this podcast that I've been doing since 2019, all about my personal finance challenges separate to my business. I've been mindful of not talking about my business in that podcast, talking about personal finance, and then talking about marketing and growth strategies separately on my other channels. And this year, I've gone more and more, they've started to come together because I really want business owners to thrive and not just look at growing their business, but look at how do they do it in the most cost-effective way possible. And it's a real interesting epiphany. When I talk about ad, you'll hear me talk about ad a lot more as a concept to add in your business. When you can add with awareness, with clear decisions that are informed and be dedicated to that process, that's where true transformation for a business happens, but not just a business, the person's life as well. Oh my goodness. So you can tell I get very passionate about this. You know, I would say childcare in Australia is, Chantel, um, heartbreaking for me as well. When I realized, fun fact, I we had the mortgage there, Russell, and I was like, okay, I had 2 kids under 2 and I needed to find a job. And I responded to an ad that was for a university student to do social media marketing for a business basically as an employee. And I got my first paycheck and I had to organize for the kids to go into childcare. And I was so excited to have this job where I was able to contribute to the household income. And by the time I paid for childcare, I had $30 left in my pocket. I couldn't even buy groceries. I had to be in this realization that I was, yes, working, but having to pay for childcare meant that I was kind of in this conflict of I wasn't around for my kids, yet I was working. So my work self, my workaholic self was like, yes, I'm working. My budgeting self was like, why on earth am I doing this? And it was interesting because that became a catalyst and a part of me understanding how to value what I do and how I can do it, and that more than 20 years worth of experience in marketing, how I could re what's reimagine who I am and how I can help more people with more impact. It's had me for the last 10 years, because my eldest is 10 years old now, on this path of consistent learning and finding myself in a situation where I'm so determined to not just help myself and my family, but I want more people to see things differently to what they're currently seeing them. Resourcefulness is one of my core reasons for being, and being resourceful with what I have is how I've been able to reduce my debt without going to the temptation of earning more. I've set myself up to pay myself what I would deem as enough, and enough means that I'm on a market rate wage for what I do, so that my business is set up for me to earn that. And then I have the freedom and the opportunity to do other things that enable me to give back and to be able to do things like be involved with Sacred Promise. And sales of this book, the profits go to the foundation that Dr. Terai Trent has established that supports young women and girls to get educated in Zimbabwe. That enables me to see that I'm having a bigger impact. And one of the key reasons why I had my story put into print. And I see how I can help with that. And if you're looking for a way to, I guess, be a part of that, these books are available on Amazon, and I'll make sure under this video as well, there's a link on my website. If you buy the books directly through me, you'll get a signed copy from me. Alternatively, I mean this absolutely seriously, go and purchase through Amazon as well, because I really do want to help support Dr. Terai Trent, and I would look into her more yourself as well. She's known as an incredible woman with an incredible heart, and also as Oprah's all-time favorite guest. She's had incredible collaborations with Oprah, having schools financed by Oprah for Dr. Terai Trent's foundation for schools in Zimbabwe. And this is the thing, I see how important it is and the power of when you speak up about what breaks your heart, what true change is actually possible through it. And I do want people to see what is possible, even when they think it's not possible, how to rethink their lives, rethink what they do to be able to achieve what they want creatively. I would say I am in a state of feeling I can do more and speak more with regards to financial literacy and marketing and how the two come together. I see it every day. And I would say if you've got questions about it, if you want more content or more learning from me about it, don't hesitate to comment on these videos to let me know. You'll see when you go through the YouTube channel here, and I think this is important to see, how I have got playlists with regards to financial literacy learning and my own experience around it, and then also cost-effective ways for people to build their businesses with regards to marketing. If you're looking for ways to work with me, don't hesitate to get in contact. I am really making sure that I feel there should be ways and more access to resources for people to see you don't have to automatically spend money to get what you want. And that is what I'm dedicating myself and this YouTube channel to even more. If you want to listen to my podcast, Adding Up with Serena.Ryan, it's actually, the website is addingup.com.au. I often joke that that particular podcast, it's raw and very messy. It's much like the journey of getting better with money. Anyone that's struggled with it, you'll see, and I think you made a mention of it in the comments there, Russell, about much like dieting, getting better with money. I relate on that level as well. One of the things I think that doesn't get discussed enough is that when you've got a habit that's been established for so long, when you go to break the habit, it can be great while things are going great, but then you can have a mistake, a slip up, and you can step back. And instead of it being a linear line and looking like a beautifully balanced, Excel spreadsheet, it is often something that is rather messy and rather artistic and kind of a little like all over the place because you can go forward and backwards, left, right, backwards, forwards again. You're kind of moving around. But to get where you're going, you have to keep reminding yourself if you make a mistake that it's not going to define you, that you can get better with the very next decision that you make. And that's why I keep talking about awareness, decision, dedication. If you make a mistake, just go back to making a new decision again and dedication to sticking with it again. And that's where I found the podcast. I go, oh, okay, I've made this mistake. Does the one mistake make me wrong? No. It just means I'm human and the next decision's going to be a better one. That's why I will also talk about better budgets as opposed to saying the budget or it's perfect, because it's not. It is understanding we can all do better, and we can know that if we can outweigh the bad decisions with more good decisions, we can have better opportunities to get to where we want to be. Free form. Yes, Chantal, it is free form, and I love it. When you can embrace the mess, oh, it's so freeing. And that is very much a way in which I'd look at this YouTube channel, podcast, everywhere I show up. It's free form. I'm embracing my creativity and my opportunity. That's actually another thing. If you check out my Instagram, also at serena.ryan, I'm sharing more and more over there my art. This year, I don't think it's any coincidence that this year I've embraced my artistic self and getting more in the zone with art. I had extreme fear of putting pencil to paper to create because of that level of accountability. But once I started and realized, oh my goodness, I've even got my drawing pencils in front of me, an eraser. I can actually go, oh, that little mistake in the scheme of things, I have to actually commit to see if it's going to be right or wrong. Yeah. And then I can adjust as I go. And I love that. Embracing your artistic self and knowing that you can make the opportunity of better by getting started. Whatever 2023 holds for you and going forward, I hope you see the value in knowing that more positive decisions can outweigh bad, and don't worry if there are bad, because I feel the more we can focus on the positive, we all end up better overall. I look forward to seeing you in the next live stream, and in the meantime, that will be in the second week in January. Check out the content on the YouTube channel that I have here at serena.ryan. Listen to the podcast. Let me know what you think. There's always a link in the podcast as well for you to leave comments, because the more I can hear from people, the more I see how I can help and be better myself and show up wholly me in the moment. I'm dedicated to helping as many people as I can see the value in themselves, their business, and the opportunities they have before them. So have an awesome one. Oh, and happy holidays for us all. If I don't see you before, I always feel like I have not actually met you in person yet because you're in Florida, but we will meet. I'm getting nagged to put on my vision board to get to, is it Disney World in Florida? I can't commit to the timing on that yet. I can commit to saying we're putting a holiday budget aside and we will see what will happen. Yeah, that's if you don't actually get to Australia first. Have an awesome holidays, everyone.